So Nelson, I'll go ahead and have you introduce yourself to my Facebook community. He has a nonprofit, approved 501c3 nonprofit. He got it through Clark and Clark. He
Yep.
also has a nonprofit community or Facebook group that's almost to 35K here. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself and about your nonprofit.
Sure. My name again is Nelson Santos. I'm the founder of Volunteer Abroad for Free. On Facebook as Volunteer Overseas for Free. In short, I've been spending the last few years volunteering around the world in various humanitarian projects. And now my whole focus is in building an international volunteering community focused on fee-free volunteering with social impact.
Awesome, awesome. And he's going to tell us a little bit about how he built his online group. Right now, it's so important for you to have a virtual following, especially with social distancing now. But I would say, even as we are growing back to reopening and things like that, it's so important to have something virtually. As well as physically. If you want to have some physical things in there as well, that's great. But a lot of people are really realizing the impact of only having physical connections right now. So this is a great time for you to start building your online community. And he's going to be sharing a couple of tips with us. We're going to take a couple. All right. So first and foremost, tell me about your journey to growing an online group. How long you're at 34K, but it's very important. And I don't even know the answer to this. How long did it take for you to get there? What year did you start?
It's about going on probably about 4 years to get to that number.
Okay.
Yeah, it's taken a while. It is.
Awesome. Did you see more? Is it was it consistent growth over the 4 years, or was there times of kind of lower engagement and then you picked it up? Had more? How did that journey start?
Sure. At the beginning, it wasn't easy by any means. There was a lot of a lot of self-doubt and seeing if this was even going to go anywhere. It's trickling in. I would say, and about a year and a half ago, 2 years is really when we've had the solid growth, and we're averaging about 1,000 and now even probably more a month consistently with the numbers. But yeah, at first it was just, putting for a very small audience and trying to tag everybody you can. So no, at first it wasn't growing at the rate it is now by all means.
Gotcha. And were you involved in other groups, or what made you go ahead and decide to start the group to begin?
Sure, yeah, it's quite funny, and it happened to me in another group recently. But essentially, I found the group. It had like a couple hundred members on it. Something about volunteering. I saw it was inactive, and then Facebook. I don't know if it happens. Facebook, the algorithms will find out if nobody's running the group, and I'll ask somebody who they see if you want to be an admin. So they literally asked me, "Do you want to be an admin of this group?" And I said, "Okay." And then from there, I figured, it was just happened for me. I wanted to make this volunteering information more accessible. So, and I didn't find any other groups doing it. So I just started putting my own content that I was finding online, changed the name of it, and then slowly but surely started growing. But yeah, it just happened out of a fluke coincidence. It was never really an intention. It asked me, I want to be the admin of the group, and from there I went.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So when you were first starting, how much time did you put into it? And then up until now, how much time does it take for someone to put into a group to grow it to where you are now?
Sure. Great question. There's a lot of learning to begin with when we're starting the group as well. I didn't really know the direction I was going. I knew, the basic premise behind it. But at first it was maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But now we're probably up to 3 or 4 hours a day I spend on the group creating content, finding content, and, creating certain rules that we want members to follow.
Right. That's an important question, because some people think that, they think it doesn't take that much time, or they don't realize how much time they even have to put into it. If someone is just starting, what would you say would be a good amount of time to put into growing their group? Would an hour a day? Would you start with 15 minutes? Or would you start with
you got to start somewhere. So, start with 5-10 minutes. And one tip I always give everybody, the most important part of the group is the name. Find a name, if you call it, Tracy's, volunteering nonprofit sector, nobody's looking for Tracy's they don't know who Tracy is, but people are looking for volunteer abroad opportunities or volunteer overseas for free. So find something that people are already looking for. And that's one of the best advice I've taken myself is find the name that people are actually looking for in Facebook community.
Start with a good foundation. And I actually changed our name after that tip. I actually changed our name. I forgot what it was before, but it's now nonprofit Now it's nonprofit development and funding, because that's what we
Right.
talk about is nonprofit, and that's something that, and that was a huge change. That was a couple of months ago that I changed it. So that's a huge tip right now, guys, to write that down, that make sure that the name is something that's searchable and something that gives clarity as to what you're going to be talking about in that group. Sometimes people want to hold a ton of information, and it basically allows them to not reach anyone because they don't have any specified information.
Correct, correct. And remember, Facebook is easily accessible through the Google search engines. I think they have a PR10 ranking SEO factors. So
Mhm.
the fact alone, when they're searching a nonprofit, that'll come up on Google, and hence your Facebook group will come up.
Got it, got it. What suggestion would you give as far as the type of nonprofit group to start for some of the nonprofits? Would you just say starting it along the mission that they're actually tied to? Or did you ever, should I say, is this your only Facebook group, or have you started other ones as well?
I have another one, but it's kind of an offset. It's just an approval of the nonprofits we allow on our website. But
Hmm.
no, it is all focused on there. As far as creating your own community, I think the main thing that's really set us apart is that we're so niche focused. We focus
Hmm.
on one thing and one thing only. We don't try to
Hmm.
do too many things, and people go to our community for focusing on strictly volunteering efforts. Perfect example is right now we have a huge amount of influx of people who are just home, and granted they want to go and help the community with language exchange and so forth, which is fantastic. And we got like 20 posts the other day on that, but that's not our community. We have to easily stop that, start deleting all the posts. If you want to do a language exchange, great. There's groups for that. Stick to what
Hmm.
we do. Don't start
Hmm.
doing all these things because then people are like, "What's so special about your group? I can do that in that group. I can do." Everybody knows that they go to our community. We discuss one thing only. It's volunteering abroad.
And I think that is so important in life, period. Sometimes focus, especially as entrepreneurs, just focusing on one thing can be difficult. But once you start to focus, I like to say it's like you're putting, when you have all these things going on, you have all your energy in all these places, and things can grow, but they'll grow at a slow rate. But if you could just focus on one thing, that's how you can really get that exceptional growth. So, how did you guys pivot, especially for your group? Because you're so travel based and volunteer based, did you have a hard time pivoting with COVID-19 and how to flow with the changes of the world and what was going on?
Sure, absolutely. When it first happened, I myself was ready to go on a plane to Mexico. Literally had to take a book, and just things just started going down and down. And I realized it didn't make any sense for me to go abroad, and would set a bad example as the leader of the group to go and travel anywhere at this point. So I,
Hmm.
I did get a little worried of what exactly we are going to do with our community since we're so focused on international relief efforts, but quickly turned, to how I always started my journey, impacting my own local community. So
Hmm.
what we now do is, make sure that everybody understands that the focus right now should be where their immediate help is needed in their own community. Focus on that. We've now taken the time to share volunteering stories of people contributing to their societies, and there's been
Awesome.
a great engagement numbers with those posts as well. And then, for the immediate future, volunteering online may be the new volunteering abroad. And so we created a directory now. We have about 40 online opportunities from different parts around the world.
Wow, that is awesome. That's awesome because a lot of times you think of certain things and you just think of it as physical, but there's so many things that you can do virtually with
Yeah.
technology. And even though we're all learning and learning how to utilize it and things like that, there's still, if there was something way that you were connecting, whether that be through language or through helping with education and teaching classes or courses, almost anything that can be taught can be done virtually now. So now you guys are kind of transitioning that international work to online and the physical work to being in your own community, doing what's in needs in your own community,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely correct.
Awesome. That is great. That is great. So, what type of tips can you give me? A couple of tips that you would give for someone who is just starting and they don't even know, they don't even they're not even on social media that much at all. Period. What type of tips would you give them to start?
Sure. So again, the name is crucial. Find that out. Find out what separates you from everything else that's online. So whether it be if you're focusing on food bank distribution, maybe you're working on sewing masks for the community in our current pandemic issue. Maybe you're feeding on the homeless. Whatever it is, find that out, and then first thing is do some research.
Mhm.
Find out what other Facebooks are around there, because at the same time you don't need duplicate content. Okay, So if there's somebody else doing the same thing, maybe you want to join forces with them.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have your own nonprofit, so you need your own donations and you need your own audience, but you don't want to copy them. So you want to find out what they're doing and see what you can do to improve on it and make yourself better. As far as from going from that, that would be the key things I would say out there. And then I would slowly invite a couple people, but one mistake that I see a lot of people do on the Facebook community, don't start inviting a whole bunch of people just to have numbers in your group,
Mm-hmm.
because then you're
Mm-hmm.
going to have a dead audience and people have
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with it. Let it grow, let the group grow organically. I would start maybe with a public group like I did. We are in the process of changing it to a private group now, but I
Mm-hmm.
think the reason our group grew so much because it was public and it was for everybody to see. Now
Huh.
so the group now has gone to a certain level. I feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable closing the group because now
Mm-hmm.
it's like I was giving this example the other day, which is a good one. Is like if I have it public, it's like window shopping. Everybody can see what's in there, and they don't have to join it. When it's private,
Mm-hmm.
it makes people more curious. Um,
Ah. Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that's a big
Absolutely.
thing. But yeah, there's a
Absolutely.
lot of different things. It depends how you start, but those would be the basic foundations. Start with the name, do some research, find out what's out there, and find a niche that you can focus on.
Got it. That's a good point there because actually, with everything going on, I also teach dance therapy for domestic violence shelters as well as I used to teach Zumba years ago. And I started doing some dance therapy just for the stress that's going on around this whole issue that I do on Saturdays as well. And so I did a group for it, but I did it as a private group. And a lot of the ladies, when I would do the 5 minute, it's like 5 minute dance breaks, they're like, I can't share this. I want to share it. I want to share it with my friends, but it's a private group. So that's a good
Correct.
point. I just learned something in this that making it public at first so that people can share it with other people that they think would be able to benefit from that group is a great idea. And then, like you said, maybe switching over to private at a later date.
Yeah, what you
So
could
that's
do as well, you can make it, put it in the page,
mhm,
make it into your page first as attach the group, and then share it into the group,
then
and
share it into the group.
that way it is shareable.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, and that's another tip I'll write down as well. Last question that I think I have for you, well, two more questions was number one, what was your biggest challenge in this whole journey of growing the group? What do you think your biggest challenge has been, and how did you overcome that? Or
Um, Creating content. That is the biggest thing. Constantly finding ways to keep the community members engaged.
mm-hmm,
So that's been always the thing. The constant engagement, constant way to grow it. And I think we've done a good job about it. I think our most engaging content is our community discussion when we
mm-hmm,
address issues about volunteering abroad and the ethics. And like most recently, somebody put an article about religion and how it's tied into volunteerism, stuff
mm-hmm.
like that. We try to bring up debates that are gonna, hot topics, if you will. But
Okay.
and then, some people may battle you against it, but I always like to bring out the point. This is a group discussion. We are here to discuss things. We cannot hold a civil discourse, and what's the point of having this? So I will bring up topics that I think are maybe taboo or
Mm-hmm,
maybe not a lot of people feel comfortable with, because it's important we address these issues. And so that's always going to be an issue for any community.
mm-hmm.
Engagement, how to keep your community active.
That's a really good point because sometimes you're scared to bring up certain things or bring up what your opinion is. Again, just opinion on the matter. But those are the things that need to be discussed. If we're all just talking about things that, the surface things, then we're never going to get anywhere and grow together, which it sounds like as you're growing the community, it's when you're growing together and growing in information and revelation and things like that together that you really grow. So yeah, so that sounds awesome. Tell me a little bit about your content strategy slash daily to do. What do you do? What have you done to overcome that? Do you have a certain amount of time that you take creating content and researching throughout the day, or what's your typical content routine?
Sure. So I don't necessarily have a particular time throughout the day. I'm just actively always thinking about it.
Uh-huh.
One thing I do as well, I join several traveling groups. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
on to a whole bunch of different traveling groups. I like to say there's a couple of volunteering groups like ours, but ours is quite unique in that aspect. But there's a lot of humanitarian aid groups. So I look at all the groups every day. I have all my notifications set up and see what people are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I have a list on my Google News feed that all listed to humanitarian causes, volunteering. So the news kind of like brings to me like, oh, this is quite interesting. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
this. So I surround myself around the content. Basically I have the news aggregated to my channels, so I can just look through the day and like, okay, this is great content. Let's bring this up, and just see
Mm-hmm.
what other people are talking about. And that's the main thing I would say. I just continue join other groups, see what people are doing, and then see how it can relate to our community.
That sounds like an organic content strategy, which is great. I'm all on strategy and plans, and things like that.
Yeah.
That's what I would call that, which is the best way to create content, to engage and to connect, is that these are number one, sounds like you started from a place that you actually really were passionate about. You of course
Right.
have traveled abroad. You can listen to this type of information and get these details all day because you're excited and passionate about it. One of the things that I see about with entrepreneurs is a lot of times they're starting a lot of things and their passion level may not even be that intense in this specific
Yeah.
area. So it's hard to create content because you're not surrounding yourself with it, you're not researching, you're not joining other groups about it because you're really not that passionate about it. So I think this might be a good point to check and kind of see, hey, if I'm going to have to maybe one day get to the point where I'm going to be talking about this for 3 to 4 hours or running a group for 3 to 4 hours, this better be something I'm really interested in and I'm really wanting more information into growing in my own
No,
myself.
that's a great point because look, after all these years, a lot of members don't realize, the thousands of dollars I've invested into this community. I haven't
Hmm.
gotten a single dime back. We
Hmm.
just literally got our first grant. This is the first time I've received anything of a
Ooh,
compensation. Yes,
congratulations.
thank
That's
you, Tracy.
awesome.
All
That's
thanks to
awesome.
you. Big shout out to what you do. But I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of money and time I've invested. I haven't gotten nothing back in return other than the fact that I am passionate, like you said, about the subject. So that what gives me it. But aside from that, there's obviously no monetary gains, and I think that's why. Well, I know that's why we'll be successful. This I was never chasing to get a paycheck here. It's just the way I chose to live my life, and I
Hmm.
feel I know I can continue doing this life as soon as we keep getting bigger. And obviously, at one point, get some sort of salary to run the nonprofit, so I can focus on this full time. But yeah, I never chased a dollar bill or oh my God, this is how I can live my life. I literally did because I'm passionate about it, and I think this information should be freely accessible to each and everybody that wants to go ahead and volunteer abroad.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's a lot easier to monetize after you've grown a group and you've made sure that it's just something that you're passionate about. It's easier to monetize afterwards. A lot of people go in, so you kind of went in the right way, and that's the area that I really enjoy is the business entrepreneur part of it and helping to monetize communities and things like that. But of course, my community, we've set up maybe over 3,000 nonprofits, and then our actual online community Facebook group is only at 300, and of course it's monetized, but a lot of times it's a lot easier to monetize a group that's already been grown and then monetize it afterwards because you've already kind of seen the areas that people are interested in, and even in your growing process in itself, a lot of times someone having a coach in helping them walk through that process of growing can be monetized. And guys, that's what we want to talk about right now. First of all, I'm going to open up to any questions and let Gayla chime in with some questions, which she does have. And then, but before that, I'm going to let you guys know that if you are interested in growing your group and having someone around you to kind of hold your hand, walk you through the process, me and Nelson are creating something together where we'll be able to help you, walk you through the process, give you that training, give you that support, because I'm a firm believer no matter what you're growing, support is so important.
Yes.
Being around the right people is so easy to fall off when you're not really fully supported. When you have questions, being able to ask someone those questions. So we're going to be creating some groups as well as some one-on-one training to kind of grow your group. So I'm going to have her go ahead and start with the questions. Go ahead. Someone said, sorry, I know Nelson, but who are you? Okay, that's a great question. Someone said, sorry, I know Nelson, but who are you? I'm Tracy Clark. I help develop nonprofits, and I'm also a business coach. I basically help people turn their passion and what they're passionate about into their purpose and into something that they can do and monetize. So first discover their passion and then fund their passion. So that's what I do. Mostly that centers around nonprofit development as well as business coaching. So that's a little bit about me. Normally I say that at the beginning, but
Yeah,
I
just
guess
for
with all of the
in case anybody's watching here in our group, the reason we are a nonprofit today is because of Tracy. Long
thank
short of it.
you. Thank you. So my stuff is a little bit more boring, but I absolutely love what I do. But actually volunteering and getting out there and being able to see the different things. Tell us a little bit, as far as my community is concerned. Tell us a little bit about how you decided or wanted to start volunteering abroad. Period. How did you get introduced to that?
Sure. I mean, it's a whole long story, but as far as going volunteering, I just felt in life I needed to figure a way to give back to society. I was working in the corporate world and waiting for Friday to be happy, and then one day just sat down to me like, am I gonna wait the rest of my week, life for Friday to be happy and have fun? And I just didn't feel I was living anything with purpose. And it started out with a farm share program about I think now maybe 14 years ago, sharing food, from the grocery stores, excuse me, and putting them in the things much like we're doing now around the world, the food banks. And I saw everybody essentially just helping out. There's nobody who's getting a check, and they were continuing to want to give back to society. And it was just, it was interesting to see that people just want to give back with no ulterior motive. And from there, I took leadership roles, and sure enough, I knew I wanted to take this internationally. And here we are years later, volunteered all around the world and running a nonprofit.
And that's the exact type of entrepreneur that I like to work with. When that passion and just that wanting to give back comes first, it makes the monetizing part a little bit easier. So that's exactly, you are exactly the type of person when you're passionate about something and just want to change your own life, and you're wanting information for yourself and you're wanting to grow. A lot of times we are able to grow the people around us, but a lot of times it's hard as entrepreneurs or as people who are doing passion projects and things like that. Sometimes that monetization part is a little tricky. And so that's the part that's fun for me. I probably say my passion for entrepreneurship started at like 10 years old, which is when I started my first business. I was doing hair. And ever since then, it was like every business that I go into, I look at how is this ran? How are they connecting? How are they monetizing? It's just something I'm pretty much obsessed with. So I love connecting passionate people with the tools that they need to actually monetize their passion so they could do more of what they love. So any other questions we have before we go today? All right, no more questions, guys. So like I said, go ahead and shoot me a message, or you can shoot Nelson a message, or just comment below if you want more information about that training on how to grow your online community. And we'll get you information on that as well. I come on every Saturday at 11 a.m. I'm going to also link Nelson's group below if you're interested in learning more information about Volunteer Abroad. Of course, once the social distancing and things like that are open back up. Right now, they're focusing on volunteering in your local community or wherever you happen to be right now. So we're going to link his group below as well. And he comes on and does videos and shares all type of information as well, guys. So we will see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. And congratulations again for everyone who have received some SBA funding, including Volunteers Abroad. Thank you so much for coming on, and we hope we're able to have you come on again as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for your help, Tracy. Have a good day.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye-bye.